Anthony, and thank you very much for choosing to join us this morning. Delighted to have you, and definitely you're going to enjoy the show. Now today, in a very special way, we are talking about cryptocurrency and if it's been adapted in East Africa as much as the rest of the world. Now cryptocurrencies are digital assets that are done virtually, and transactions occur 100% virtually. In East Africa, it is alleged that over 12 million East Africans are engaged in cryptocurrency transactions. That is to say, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and so many other cryptocurrencies that people actually do transact. Now, today we're going to be talking to Mr. Barry Ainomugisha, who is a founder of Skill Haven. That is an organization, and it's an Africa-wide organization. He is a specialist lawyer in business, and in particular in cryptocurrency. We are talking crypto as an adaptation of currency, the new currency that's going to take the world by storm in the next few years, or is it already doing so here in Africa? If you want to see more of that action, you have to stay tuned till the end of the show, and you will definitely be able to catch some of that action. Now, Mr. Barry also will be talking about Ethereum's merging. What does the merging of Ethereum coin mean? And as you may wish to know, Ethereum is it's the second biggest crypto coin that we have in the world, only after Bitcoin. And we are going to look at what the merging of Ethereum means, and what the change of system transaction also means to the crypto traders. And so if you are a cryptocurrency enthusiast and you want to know more about blockchain technology, you want to know more about the ledgers, cryptography, and all these other cool stuff, you have to stay tuned until the end of the show, and you will catch most of that action only here at Smart24 TV, where we drive your business. Now, a humble reminder, OTEX East Africa is the only exchange in East Africa that is offering you USSD accessible bonds and other securities. By simply dialing *292#, you will be able to access securities in East Africa. We're talking about Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania bonds. All the bonds listed in these countries are accessible using your smartphone. The minimum amount you need is only 15,000, and you will be able to buy a bond. You can imagine when you go to other stakeholders in the sector, they'll tell you maybe perhaps 100,000, 200,000. OTEX East Africa is just saying you need at least 15,000 to buy bonds here in East Africa, in Uganda, in Tanzania. And for those of you who are wondering what bonds are, these are simply transferable debt instruments, or loans that can be transferred. And these instruments are there for you to earn an interest on your savings. You're investing your savings so you can come up with a return. And OTEX East Africa, in conjunction with OTEX Clearing and their initiative ZABU, are giving you a chance to be a participant in these markets by simply dialing *292# for you who are MTN users. And definitely OTEX East Africa is also proudly giving you a chance to check out some of the new products that are coming up on their markets. You can visit their Twitter at OTEX East Africa for more information. You can also visit Smart24 TV, that is our handle on Twitter, or our official page on YouTube. On Facebook is actually at Smart24 TV official, and leave a comment or ask a question or give your concern as well. Now, putting that aside, today we are going to also analyze and break down the performance of the stock markets here in East Africa. And of course, we'll kick off right away with Uganda Securities Exchange. And this is the principal stock exchange for Uganda. Now, yesterday's trading ended with a few losers and a couple of gainers. However, when we check out the data as per the Uganda Securities Exchange, there were only 3 companies that participated in the daily trading on the Uganda Securities Exchange. The day ended, however, with 5 gainers and close to 3 losers, and we're saying that regarding the performance of the index, that is the All Share Index, which is the benchmark for all the current listed companies or equities, it declined by shading off about 4.33 points, and that was a 0.35% decline in the daily performance on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Now, the day also ended with about 1,242 points on the All Share Index, and this is as regards the average performance of the entire stock exchange. For the local companies, the local company index also declined because of the loss of Stanbic Bank, which was significant for the domestic companies, and the stock registered a decline index of about 0.26%, closing to over 273.09 points on the Uganda Stock Exchange. And now when we look at the weekly performance of the indices, in terms of the All Share Index, we're still registering a decline of about 2.52%. And when you look at the 4-week performance, we're still looking at a loss of about 6.33%. And in terms of year-to-date, we're seeing a loss of 15.2%, the overall loss on the Uganda Stock Exchange, meaning we are not still doing our best yet, but we hope for the very best as we're closing into the 4th quarter of 2022. And I hope you get into this quarter with some shares. I don't want you to just keep watching Smart 24 or financial markets. Get yourself some shares in some of these companies. Some companies are really affordable. You're looking at, for example, National Insurance Corporation with 5 shillings, 5 for Christ's sake, you can buy yourself a share. So if you have like 10K, you can get thousands of shares in National Insurance Corporation. We don't know where this price could go in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. So you're investing for the future. You're investing for your children, you're investing for your family, and definitely you're going to get to celebrate that milestone later on. Now, when you look at the top gainers, as I mentioned, we had only 3, a balanced kind of activity. We had 3 participants, and in these 3 participants, we ended with about 3 losers and 5 gainers. On the gaining side, we had Centum Investment Company lead the gainers at a 2.37% price appreciation. That was about 7.07 shillings, closing the day with a price of 305.05. Centum Investments was followed by East African Breweries Limited, who gained about 64.82 shillings, closing the day with a price of 4,502.82 Ugandan shillings. Now, when you look at the other gainers here, we had Steel Equity Bank Limited. All these, by the way, are cross-listed from Nairobi. Cross-listed, of course, from the exchange here in Nairobi. And when you look at Equity Bank yesterday, he gained about 0.35% and ended with a day price of about 1,490.37 after having gained about 5.22 shillings. And then when you look at Kenya Airways, Kenya gained about 0.03% on its price yesterday after having added about 0.04 shillings to close the day with a market price of 121.45. Now, moving on to the losing side, we had KCB come out last with a loss of 21.4%, and KCB lost to 9,981.83 shillings. Now, that was a very drastic decline for KCB Group, and we are seeing that he's going below the 1,000 mark, which is quite unprecedented, at least this year. And KCB was also followed amongst the losers by Nation Media Group, who came out second last with a price depreciation of 7.15%. Still a cross-listed company. And then when you look at Stanbic Bank, was another loser. There were only 3 losers, and Stanbic Bank came out as the third last loser, losing about 1.48% and closing at a price of 20.69. Now these losers here, we're seeing 3 companies, 2 of them cross-listed from Nairobi, which is a kind of good news for Ugandan companies, but not so good news for the entire exchange as a whole. And we are not seeing any activity on all these except Stanbic Bank, who had a volume of about 10,700 shares, meaning the other companies like KCB, NMG moved in price entirely due to factors outside the demand and supply of their stock. And as I mentioned, and I always mention on the show, that the movement of the prices of cross-listed companies is rather due to factors such as the foreign exchange rate fluctuations, factors such as the movement in price back on the domestic exchange, and so many others that could not be actually about the demand and supply of that particular stock. And so every single day we have close of business. The Uganda Stock Exchange has to liaise with the Nairobi Stock Exchange. For example, if KCB traded some good volumes and had a good appreciation on Nairobi Stock Exchange, regardless of whether we had activity or not on the Uganda Stock Exchange, the price of the 2 stocks has to agree at the end of the day, because if it doesn't, that will create disparities within the stock exchanges. And so in order for them to come to agree, we must have some kind of uniform pricing, and of course putting the exchange rates into factor, of course, to see that we also factor it into there, and we see that the 2 prices actually relate to each other. Now, that is the reason perhaps why you're seeing many of these companies move in prices regardless of whether they had trades or not. Now, in terms of volumes, the top movers, we had Rumeme, who came out with the biggest volume of trading after having traded about 205,200 shares. And we also had MTN, who came in as the second top mover after having traded about 55,405 shares. Stanbic Bank was another top mover who came in the third place with about 10,700 shares that were recorded on the counter yesterday. And that's the summary there for your trades on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Remember, the Uganda Securities Exchange is mandated by government to deal in the trade of securities. We have equities as well as the debt instruments at the moment. But I hear, and this is absolutely what I hear, that of course we're having a commodities market coming on the Uganda Stock Exchange very soon. Now that will be pretty exciting because for a long time, since the Uganda Securities Exchange was incorporated in 1997, we've wanted to see a diversification of the markets, so we could have commodities, derivatives, and all these other cool products that could make our exchange a little bit more active and more exciting, and so we look forward to that as well. Also, there are rumors that definitely a certain telecommunications company could also list on the Uganda Stock Exchange. These are rumors I've heard from CMA, or the Capital Markets Authority, and we hope this company gets to also list, and look forward to a very successful IPO for this company and several other companies that are out looking for capital. The Uganda Securities Exchange is open and definitely is a window for you to be able to raise capital. We don't call these markets capital markets for no reason. They are to help businesses raise capital. So if you're there and you're looking at bank loans and you're looking at family members to raise capital, that's not the only way. The exchange is here, and all you have to do is to fulfill a certain area. You must have good record keeping. You must have good books, you know. You must have well audited books, at least for the last 3 financial years. You must also have a good corporate governance policy. You must be dealing in legitimate products or legit products. You must be registered and licensed. Simple, but very important criterion there for you to fulfill in order to be listed on the exchange. It comes with many benefits. Look at companies that are listed. They have a reputation. They have a good image out there, because by the time they go through this scrutiny to be put onto the exchange, they have done their best to prove themselves. Therefore, your business might grow, you will raise this capital, and this capital comes at no cost. You don't have to pay this money back to the shareholders. These are people buying into your company so they can become part owners, and so they can also gain somehow from the profitability of your company. We are going to take a quick breather. We'll return shortly with a little bit more detailed performance analysis and also peer into the Nairobi Stock Exchange. And later on, we'll be having Mr. Barry Mugisha from Haven Africa, so that we can talk about crypto. Stay with us. We'll be right back.